How's it going, everybody? Brad Clemens back again. This week's book that I just read was Rachel Cruze's Know Yourself, Know Your Money. Truthfully, this is actually a very good book. I read it right after her other one, Love Your Life, Not Theirs. And it really gave me more of an awakening moment and a chance to look deeper into myself. So without further ado, let's get right into it. As you know, Rachel is the daughter of Dave Ramsey, financial guru, so she follows the same steps he has, the 7 baby steps. Quick review, that was step 1, $1,000 emergency fund. Step 2, pay off debts not including a mortgage. 3, full-fledged emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses. 4 is retirement. 5 is college expenses if you have kids that are going to college. 6 is your mortgage, and 7, that's when you get to live and give like no one else. That's just building wealth. But throughout this entire book, she kind of goes through a way of finding out who you are and where you came from in the terms of money. The initial portion to it is about where you came from. So talk about your childhood and the different foundation you had for money based on what you were exposed to and what you were involved in growing up and now to some extent. And it goes through, after that, some of the different fears, as well as how to respond to different money mistakes. And then after that, the final part we're talking about is, what you do with your money and why you do it. This includes both spending, saving, and then giving as well. So let's get right into it. So going through this book, again, truly thought it was a very interesting read. It made me do some self-exploration, which is always a good thing if you're a personal growth junkie like myself. Talking about where you came from, she explained there was 4 primary classrooms: anxious, unstable, unaware, and secure. And she looked at this as a matrix. If you can picture, a standard XY graph, the x-axis was based on how closed to open your family was, or your, wherever you grew up with, was about talk about money. Closed being didn't happen at all. Open, the other side of the spectrum, open being it was just open and freely talked about. Then the y-axis was from stressed at the top down to calm at the bottom. Now, if you were both closed and stressed, she called that the anxious classroom, meaning you were stressed, you were worried about money, but you didn't really know why because no one talked about it. You just knew something was wrong. On the other side, stressed and open was unstable because everyone was worried about money. It was a topic of disconcern, and it was actually talked about. So that could be like a shouting match and open, public display of just money problems. Closed and calm then would be, this is where I think I grew up, is I didn't think there was any money problems. I never felt that there was money problems, but we never really talked about it as a family. So I never knew for sure, and I didn't really have a chance to grow and develop with that sense. The final one being secure is calm and open. And this is where she says the ideal growing area, because again, money is stable. Doesn't necessarily mean you have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, but it means you're in control of your money and you're open to talk about it. So the children that are learning in that family would also learn, and so on and so forth. So I thought I fell in the unaware classroom. Again, didn't think money was a problem, but it wasn't something we really talked about. After that, she dives into money tendencies, talking about how there's a saver versus spender, nerd versus free spirit, someone that values experiences over things, someone that would look for quality over quantity, safety versus status, abundance versus scarcity, and planned giving versus spontaneous giving. So I'm going to talk about each one briefly, as well as where I fall. I'm by no means do I see myself as an extreme in any of these. Which is fortunate. You do truly want to get closer to the middle. If you see, again, it's not cut or dry, black or white, it's a spectrum. Take, for instance, the saver spender. Saver here, spender here. You don't necessarily want to be on either end entirely. And realistically, if my head's the middle, you might not be in the center either. You could be by either my ears and you'll be golden. You'll have a natural tendency towards one of them, but again, doesn't mean that you're an extremist, and also you shouldn't try to be an extremist. You should try to get towards that middle ground. But going forward, I'm more of a saver, which means I have a natural inclination to save money, not necessarily spend. good way to test this for yourself is, if I were to gift you $1,000, what would you do with it? Nerd versus free spirit. Again, I'm more on the nerd side. I do like to plan and have a plan. Budget. By no means is this like something I am overly thrilled about, and by no means do I break down every single minute detail. I do still keep pools of money versus saying how much I'm going to spend at the movies, how much I'm going to spend at restaurant X, restaurant Y, how much I'm going to spend at the game store. You get the idea. I just have a pool called play money, so I can do whatever I want with it. Yes, it's planned, nerd side, but it's also free to be used wherever I want in that category, so free spirit too. I value experiences. I truly want to go out and travel. I like spending time with people. I like going places. I do buy things, don't get me wrong, but I see myself more as an experience guy, and that follows suit. I do see myself looking for quality more than quantity. If and when I buy things, whether it's a trip, a new toy, new piece of equipment, technology, whatever it may be, I do go for the high end. I don't typically look to buy just quantities of quantities. I want one that's gonna be good. I don't want 10 that are gonna be bad. That doesn't mean I wouldn't take a couple that are, good, not necessarily the best, but yeah, again, experiences versus things, and quality versus quantity. The next one being safety versus status. I truly think I see myself more as a status person, meaning I don't, save strictly for my own safety. Yes, I'm a saver, but at the same time, a lot of stuff I do is status based. Take for instance my Apple Watch here. Could have gone with a variety of different smartwatches, but I went Apple because, Apple. I wouldn't say I'm a high status person there, but again, it's still to some extent. Abundance. I feel that's a tough one. There's times where I lean on abundance. There's times I lean on scarcity. And what I mean is, it comes with the giving later on. I'm a spontaneous giver, but versus a planned giver, and I need to work on that. I need to work on my giving. And as I talked about from her last book, I realized I have an abundance mindset when it comes to spending personally, but I have a more scarcity mindset when it involves spending on others, gifting, giving, anything that doesn't really involve me. So it's a very interesting concept, and something I've been dealing with a little bit, because it's more of a self-involved, selfish, self-interest mindset, and that's not something I want to continue going forward. I don't want to be seen or think of myself as a taker. I want to work and become more of a giver. And as I mentioned, after reading her last book a week or so ago, that is something I'm looking and working on right now, is increasing my giving and increasing my gratitude based on the book I read before that. So I'm going to see it here, and I'll have to come back to it to see how my abundance versus scarcity mindset changes. But yeah, again, when it's myself, I have an abundance mindset. I always think, there's gonna be more and more opportunity. I do think that just in general, I see the glass as half full. I'm an opportunist. I do take advantage of situations, good or bad, but there are times where I have a scarcity mindset, and I truly think it's when it involves others and stuff that I don't have full control over. But I digress. So definitely an eye-opener, definitely brings some thought to mind, and gives you thinking as to where you fall, and it gives some idea as to why you think the way you do, and the why you act and treat money and use money the way you do. So if that's something you're questioning, I would recommend this book. After that, it talks about money fears. For many, this can be simple things such as, will I have enough? Where will it come from? What should I do with it? And I'm not going to dive into that too deep, because I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a financial expert. Everyone knows that there's fears with money, and everyone understands. And the biggest thing to know is you're not alone, and there are ways to cope with it. And the biggest thing is you have to first recognize the fear. Then you have to find some truths that are contrary to it. And then finally, it's okay to, and you should look for help. So acknowledgement's the biggest part. That's step one. After that, again, find some truths that are, distinguished against that fear. And then finally, again, find help. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no, don't feel weak because you're doing it. It takes a strong person to recognize that they have I don't want to say a problem even, that they have a fear, and they understand that someone could actually help them. That said, we all know that there's certain people that are easier to talk to than others, and she explains that as being able to extend grace versus not extending grace. And I personally fall on the not extending grace enough. When it comes to kids, I have tremendous grace 90% of the time, but occasionally it just snaps and it goes away entirely. With adults, I don't have as much grace, I don't have as much patience for them, and this is something I need to work on. And again, it falls back to in my prior talks about how I'm not perfect. I need to recognize I'm not perfect and understand that others aren't going to be either. So after that, she wants you to compare whether you're purchasing and living based on what you want and what you love versus just impressing others. And this is a big one. If you're spending to impress others, like if I were to have bought this watch just to impress others and be like, oh, I'm an Apple watcher, there'd be no good point to that. With the exception of you knowing now, I haven't told really anyone. I haven't posted on Facebook. I haven't posted anywhere. So I know that this is purchased for me. A couple ways you can find out is, again, ask yourself, do I want this? Would I want this a month down the road, a year down the road? You get the idea. Will I need to share this immediately on social media as soon as I purchase? If that's the case, it may be more to impress versus what you actually want. After that, she compares being a dreamer versus a realist. My nerd side has a realism to it, but I am a dreamer. I'm always looking further out. I'm always looking for new opportunities. I spend a lot of time thinking about the future, more than I probably should, but I'm sure there's others out there like me. And the big thing is you want to have both. You want to have both. You want to be a dreamer. You want to plan. You want to, think of the future. Just create that image that you want. But please, you need to stay grounded to some extent and actually have a plan to get there and be more than happy and willing to put in the time, the effort, the hours to make it happen. So again, complementary skills. It's never good to be on an extreme, but you do want some of both. And going through this, if you're married or with a significant other, it's important that you understand not only your attributes as I went through, but also your partner's attributes. And she explains that you help to, typically you find that they're contrary to some extent, and that's a good thing. You are each other's strengths because, where your strengths lie is where their weaknesses are, and vice versa. So if you put yourselves together to make one single unit, in a sense, the weaknesses go away because the strengths cancel them out. That's, I guess, when they say better together, right? Not to mention, you will get stronger with your communication if you go through this step by step, because the more you communicate, the more you learn of each other, the better you'll be, the more connection you'll feel. So make sure you do that. Don't go it alone if you are with somebody. And that comes down to being committed versus involved. If you're committed, you're gonna drop everything to make this happen. If you're involved, you're merely a spectator, right? And if you're single, it doesn't matter quite as much. It's on you, only you, and all your decisions affect, again, solely you. But if I'm, say for instance, committed to paying off $20,000 in debt, and I want to sell, one of the family cars to do this, and my wife isn't, when I tell this to her, she's going to freak out. She may want to get rid of the debt, but she doesn't see it as quite a problem like I do. So again, she's involved, but she is not committed to make that type of motion yet. The same could be said about, running a race versus watching a race, being in the Olympics versus watching the Olympics. You get the idea. I'm an involved Browns fan. I watch the Browns every Sunday during the season. But am I committed? I wouldn't say so. I'm not on the team. So big difference between the two. Understand where you're at, and if you're looking to make yourself a financial future and a financial, your financial success, it's time to get committed. This book helps. Depending on where you stand, if you're looking to, if you're in debt, the Total Money Makeover is what I recommend. If you're looking for retirement, I'd recommend Retire Inspired. I've read that book. I'll have a review coming out for you, I'm hoping soon. But definitely a good one if you're looking, talking retirement. If you're looking for a job, Proximity Principle. If you're looking to help to work and create a business, I recommend E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. The list can go on and on. I mean, there's tons of different things. Personal growth, what got you here won't get you there. Again, the more you read, the more you learn, the better off you are. But finishing up, wrapping up this book, again, truly recommend it. It's a fairly easy read. It does, though, get you thinking and it has opened my mind as to why I act and think the way I have. And it stems more than just money. Realizing when and where you give grace with money, you can also take that application to see what you do and how you give grace when other mistakes happen, or why you're more willing to talk about health or weight or whatever it may be. Again, money just kind of points at and leads the way for everything else that happens in your life, but discussions about money really are discussions about life itself. So again, great read, highly recommended. Haven't been disappointed by really any of the Ramsey Solution personalities in their books. So if you're looking for good business books, good personal growth books, good finance books, whatever it may be, it's a good place to start. So again, that was Know Yourself, Know Your Money by Rachel Cruze. I give that one, again, 8 out of 10 probably, maybe higher. Only reason it's not quite as high is, again, some of the stuff for me didn't affect quite as heavily since I'm not in a relationship, but the application is still there, and it's something I'll probably revisit once I have the need and the necessity to do so. If you want to read along with me, then the next one is Captivate by Vanessa Van Edwards. Again, that's Captivate. This one is talking about being able to interact with people and at social events. A little different than what I've read in the past, so it's along the relationship line. So it should be an interesting read. I hope to get that to you guys sooner than later. But other than that, again, if you have any books that you recommend, drop them in the comments. If you have any thoughts about the book that I just read, Know Yourself, Know Your Money, please let me know. I'd love to have a discussion with you, see what your thoughts are. Hear what if you're reading something, let me know. I'm always looking for something new, looking for some reading book buddies, maybe start a book club. But yeah, truly appreciate you guys joining me tonight, and I will see you next time.